The conference room aboard the Galactic Confederation's diplomatic vessel hummed with an uncomfortable silence. Ambassador Michael Reed studied the alien delegation with a calm, measured gaze that seemed to unsettle the three extraterrestrial representatives seated across from him. The lead diplomat, a tall creature with translucent skin and 4 arms, adjusted something that looked like a communication device near its central body. Its large, silvery eyes blinked in an unusual pattern that Michael had learned indicated nervousness. "We are surprised," the alien said, its voice a melodic series of clicks and low tones translated by a near-perfect linguistic interface, "that your species remains unaware of the larger galactic conflicts." Michael leaned back, his posture relaxed but alert. "Tell me more," he responded simply. The alien hesitated, then began to outline a conflict that had been raging for over 2 decades. The Void Raiders, a ruthless coalition of planetary systems, had been systematically conquering and destroying smaller civilizations across 3 galactic sectors. The Confederation, a peaceful alliance of technologically advanced species, had been struggling to maintain any semblance of resistance. What the aliens didn't realize was that humans had been quietly listening, observing, and processing every single word. Dr. Laura Williams, the chief scientific advisor to the United Earth Council, sat in a hidden monitoring room thousands of miles away. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, analyzing every nuance of the transmission. Beside her, retired General Thomas Blake watched with a calculating expression. "They think we're primitive," Blake muttered, a slight smile crossing his weathered face. "They have no idea." The diplomatic meeting continued, with the alien ambassador assuming humans were a backward species barely capable of understanding interstellar politics. They spoke about their conflict as if explaining complex mathematics to children, using simplified terms and patronizing explanations. Michael Reed's expression never changed. His military training and diplomatic experience allowed him to maintain perfect composure, giving absolutely nothing away. "And what would you expect from Earth?" the alien finally asked, clearly anticipating a response of confusion or fear. Michael's response was measured. "We're interested in learning more about this conflict, specifically the Void Raiders' capabilities and the Confederation's current strategic position." The alien representatives exchanged surprised glances. This was not the reaction they had anticipated. Most emerging civilizations would either be terrified or completely disinterested. Humans seemed different. Unbeknownst to the diplomatic team, massive systems were already being activated across Earth. Military research facilities that had been dormant for decades were suddenly humming with activity. Advanced computer networks began processing the newly acquired galactic intelligence at speeds that would have shocked the alien delegation. In underground research facilities, engineers and scientists who had been developing theoretical interstellar defense technologies for decades now had real-world data to work with. Prototype weapons systems that had been considered too aggressive or speculative were being pulled from classified archives and examined with renewed interest. The global communication networks of Earth began to buzz. Military leaders, scientific researchers, and political strategists were being quietly and systematically briefed. No panic, no chaos, just a systematic, coordinated response that would have been impossible for most planetary civilizations. As the diplomatic meeting concluded, the alien representatives felt something they couldn't quite define. It wasn't just curiosity from the humans. There was something else, a sense of potential, of latent capability that seemed to radiate from every human in the room. Little did they know, humanity was about to change the entire dynamics of the galactic conflict. Michael Reed stood, extending his hand in a gesture of diplomatic courtesy. "We look forward to further discussions," he said, his voice calm and neutral. The aliens would later realize that this moment marked the beginning of something they could never have predicted. Humanity was entering the galactic stage. The United Earth Council chamber buzzed with focused energy. Monitors covered every wall, displaying global communication networks, military readiness maps, and complex technological schematics. Dr. Laura Williams stood at the center, her laser pointer dancing across a holographic projection of potential spacecraft designs. "We have exactly 8 weeks," she announced to the assembled group of military commanders, engineers, and political leaders. 8 weeks to develop a credible space defense and offensive capability. Most planetary civilizations would have considered this timeline impossible. Humans saw it as a challenge. Military research facilities that had existed in semi-secret for decades now roared to full capacity. Retired engineers and veteran technologists who had been working on theoretical space defense systems were suddenly pulled back into active duty. Experimental technologies that had been shelved decades ago were now being dusted off and rapidly updated. General Thomas Blake oversaw the military preparations. His team began mapping out potential combat scenarios based on the limited information provided by the alien diplomatic mission. They analyzed every scrap of data, every hint about the Void Raiders' technological capabilities. In California's advanced research centers, teams of engineers worked around the clock. They were designing modular spacecraft components that could be quickly manufactured and assembled. The key was flexibility, something human engineers excelled at creating. "We don't need the most advanced technology," Blake explained during a strategy meeting. "We need adaptable technology that can be rapidly modified based on real-world conditions." Prototype weapon systems emerged that defied traditional military thinking. Electromagnetic pulse generators that could be quickly reconfigured. Adaptive shield technologies that could change frequency and intensity within milliseconds. Compact drone systems that could operate independently or form complex collaborative networks. The global manufacturing infrastructure transformed almost overnight. Automobile factories were retooled to produce spacecraft components. Advanced semiconductor plants began producing specialized computing systems designed for space combat. Every industrial sector was mobilized with remarkable efficiency. What the alien confederation didn't understand was that humans had been preparing for potential cosmic conflicts for decades, not out of paranoia, but out of a deep-seated curiosity about the universe and a pragmatic approach to potential challenges. Universities across the planet saw an unprecedented surge of interest in aerospace engineering, advanced physics, and computational systems. Thousands of young scientists and engineers volunteered for the massive global project. Their enthusiasm was not driven by fear, but by an exciting opportunity to push the boundaries of human capability. The first prototype spacecraft took shape in orbital construction facilities. Unlike traditional alien designs that were massive and complex, human ships were modular, compact, and designed with multiple redundancy systems. Each component could be rapidly replaced or upgraded during mission scenarios. Computer simulations ran continuously, testing thousands of potential combat scenarios. Military strategists worked alongside artificial intelligence systems, developing strategies that were both adaptive and unpredictable. Dr. Williams discovered something fascinating during these preparations. Human creativity seemed to be their most powerful weapon. Where alien militaries followed strict, predictable protocols, human teams were constantly innovating, constantly finding unexpected solutions. "We're not trying to match their technology," she told a group of alien observers who had been allowed limited access to the preparations. "We're creating something entirely new." The alien delegation watched these preparations with increasing unease. What they saw was not a primitive civilization frantically trying to catch up, but a highly organized, deeply intelligent species methodically preparing for interstellar conflict. 8 weeks after the initial diplomatic meeting, the first human space fleet was ready. 12 primary vessels, each accompanied by dozens of support craft and drone systems. They were smaller than the Confederation's massive battleships, but they radiated a sense of potential that was hard to define. General Blake stood on the command deck of the lead vessel, looking out at the stars. The alien liaison standing next to him felt a chill run through its translucent body. Humanity was not just joining the war. They were about to completely redefine it. The first human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Confederation's primary defensive zone. Silence filled the communication channels as alien sensors struggled to comprehend the unexpected arrival. Captain David Roberts sat in the command chair of the lead vessel, the UES Horizon. His hands moved with practiced precision across the holographic control interface. Around him, a diverse crew of specialists monitored complex systems, their movements synchronized like a well-oiled machine. "Confederation fleet," David transmitted, his voice calm and professional. "Human Expeditionary Force requesting engagement coordinates." The response came slowly, filled with confusion and a hint of skepticism. The Confederation's primary fleet commander, a crystalline being named Vox, hesitated before responding. His species had seen countless emerging civilizations claim capabilities they couldn't deliver. The first battle came unexpectedly. A Void Raider scout squadron appeared on the long-range scanners, apparently unaware of the human presence. What happened next would become a legendary moment in galactic military history. Human ships moved differently. Where alien vessels followed predictable tactical formations, the human fleet demonstrated an almost organic flexibility. Each ship seemed to communicate and adapt instantaneously, creating complex defensive and offensive patterns that defied traditional combat logic. The Void Raider Squadron, 12 heavily armed attack vessels, expected an easy engagement. They had destroyed similar-sized defensive groups countless times before. They were catastrophically wrong. The human fleet didn't just defend. They transformed the entire battlefield into a dynamic, unpredictable environment. Smaller drone vessels moved with incredible speed, creating electromagnetic interference that disrupted enemy targeting systems. The main ships used advanced quantum adaptive shielding that could instantly reconfigure based on incoming weapon signatures. In less than 17 minutes, all 12 Void Raider vessels were disabled. Not destroyed, deliberately disabled. The human crews had made a calculated decision to capture technology and gather intelligence rather than simply annihilate the enemy. Confederation observers watched in stunned silence. Dr. Laura Williams, monitoring from Earth, allowed herself a small smile. The combat systems had performed exactly as simulated. Years of theoretical research had transformed into practical, devastating effectiveness. The captured Void Raider vessels revealed something even more shocking. Human engineers began downloading and analyzing alien technological systems with a speed and depth that astonished the Confederation's technical experts. "They're not just fighting," one Confederation analyst whispered to another. "They're learning." Each engagement became a learning opportunity. Human ships would analyze enemy weapon systems during combat, rapidly developing countermeasures in real time. Their computational systems could process tactical information thousands of times faster than traditional military networks. General Thomas Blake reviewed the initial combat reports. The data confirmed what he had always believed: human adaptability was their greatest weapon. The Confederation leadership called an emergency meeting. The humans had gone from an unknown quantity to a potential game-changing force in a matter of hours. "They fight like no species we've ever encountered," Vox reported to the Confederation Council. "It's not just technology. It's something harder to define. A kind of tactical creativity that seems to emerge from their entire approach to conflict." What the aliens didn't understand was that humans approached warfare as a complex problem-solving exercise. Every challenge was an opportunity to innovate, to find unexpected solutions. By the end of their first week of engagement, the human fleet had not only proven their combat effectiveness, but had also begun developing collaborative strategies with Confederation forces. They didn't just bring firepower, they'd brought a completely new approach to strategic thinking. The Void Raiders would soon learn that humanity was not just another species to be conquered. They were a force that would fundamentally change the nature of galactic conflict. The Void Raiders' communication network crackled with growing fear. What had begun as routine intercepted transmissions had transformed into something entirely different: a psychological landscape of pure terror. Dr. Michael Chen, the human psychological warfare specialist, had developed a strategy that went far beyond traditional combat tactics. While most military approaches focused on physical destruction, the human team understood something more profound: the power of perception and psychological manipulation. Their first major psychological operation began subtly. Human communication specialists started broadcasting carefully crafted messages across Void Raider communication frequencies. These weren't threatening broadcasts, but something far more insidious: calculated transmissions designed to create doubt and uncertainty. The messages were brilliant in their complexity. They included fragments of intercepted communications, partially decoded tactical data, and strategically placed pieces of information that made the Void Raiders question their own intelligence networks. Each transmission was a psychological puzzle that eroded their confidence. Captain David Roberts watched the strategy unfold from the UES Horizon's Advanced Communication Center. Banks of quantum computers processed and generated these psychological warfare tools with incredible precision. "It's not about destroying them," he explained to the Confederation liaison. "It's about making them destroy themselves." Void Raider patrol groups began experiencing unprecedented communication breakdowns. Their commanders started questioning every decision, every intelligence report. The human team had identified and exploited the psychological weak points in the alien military structure. Intercepted communications revealed the growing impact. Void Raider squad leaders spoke in hushed tones about mysterious transmissions that seemed to know impossible details about their operations. Some units began to believe they were compromised from within. The psychological warfare went deeper. Human teams developed holographic projection technologies that could create convincing illusions of massive fleet movements. They would generate false sensor readings that made small human units appear as entire armadas. One particularly clever operation involved creating elaborate fabricated communication logs that suggested internal betrayal within the Void Raider command structure. High-ranking officers began suspecting their own subordinates of potential treachery. General Thomas Blake reviewed the psychological warfare reports with a sense of professional satisfaction. Traditional military thinking focused on physical destruction. Humans understood that the most effective warfare happened in the mind. The Confederation observers were both impressed and slightly unnerved. This was not how any known species conducted military operations. The humans were fighting a war on a level that went far beyond physical combat. Dr. Laura Williams explained the strategy during a classified briefing. "We're not just fighting their ships," she said. "We're fighting their confidence, their belief in their own systems." Void Raider patrol groups began making increasingly erratic decisions. Some units would retreat without clear reason. Others would engage in unnecessarily complex maneuvers that exposed their positions. The psychological pressure was creating strategic paralysis. The most remarkable aspect was the precision. Human teams could generate psychological pressure with surgical accuracy. They understood the unique psychological triggers of the Void Raider species, their communication patterns, their hierarchical structures, their deep-seated fears. Intelligence reports showed a dramatic shift. Void Raider military effectiveness dropped by nearly 40%, not through physical destruction, but through carefully engineered psychological manipulation. "They're turning our own strengths against us," one captured Void Raider commander admitted during interrogation. "We've always believed in absolute information control, but they've made us question everything." By the end of the operation, the Void Raiders had become more dangerous to themselves than to their enemies. Their command structure was fracturing, their strategic capabilities compromised by doubt and internal suspicion. Humanity had discovered something profound. In modern warfare, the most powerful weapon is not a missile or a laser. It's the ability to make an enemy defeat itself. The research facility orbiting Jupiter was unlike any scientific installation in human history. Massive transparent domes housed laboratories where hundreds of the world's most brilliant engineers and scientists worked around the clock. What had begun as a theoretical research project was now humanity's most critical technological development center. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the main laboratory, her holographic displays showing complex molecular structures and quantum interference patterns. Behind her, dozens of scientists from various disciplines worked in perfect synchronization. "We're not just improving existing technologies," she announced to her team. "We're rewriting the fundamental understanding of energy manipulation." The Confederation's scientific delegation watched in growing amazement. Human researchers approached technological development with a creativity that defied traditional scientific methodologies. Where alien research followed strict, linear progression, humans seemed to leap across technological barriers through sheer innovative thinking. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A young engineer named Alex Thompson noticed an unusual quantum interaction during a routine shield system test. What followed was a cascade of discoveries that would fundamentally change space combat technologies. The new shield system was nothing short of revolutionary. Unlike traditional energy barriers that blocked incoming attacks, the human-designed quantum adaptive shield could actually manipulate incoming energy. Weapon strikes would be not just blocked, but redirected, absorbed, or even transformed into defensive energy. General Thomas Blake reviewed the initial test results with barely contained excitement. The new technology meant that human ships could effectively turn enemy weapon attacks into additional power sources. Confederation scientists struggled to comprehend the complexity of the new technology. Traditional shield systems worked on principle of resistance. The human system worked on the principle of adaptive transformation. "It's like they're not just defending," one Confederation researcher noted. "They're having a conversation with the incoming energy." The technological developments didn't stop with shield systems. Human engineers began developing modular spacecraft components that could literally reshape themselves during combat. A damaged section could be rapidly reconfigured, with surrounding components automatically adapting to maintain overall structural integrity. Dr. Rodriguez's team discovered something even more remarkable. By understanding the fundamental quantum communication between matter and energy, they were developing technologies that could predict and counter enemy weapon systems before they were even activated. The first full-scale test of the new technologies came during a complex simulation. Void Raider weapon signatures were perfectly anticipated and neutralized. What would have traditionally been a devastating attack became nothing more than a minor energy fluctuation. Confederation military strategists watched the simulation with a mixture of excitement and growing unease. The humans were not just catching up to existing technologies, they were creating entirely new paradigms of scientific understanding. Each breakthrough seemed to come from an unexpected direction. Where alien research was heavily specialized, human teams encouraged cross-disciplinary collaboration. A quantum physicist might work alongside a biological systems engineer, creating innovations that no single specialized approach could achieve. The spacecraft manufacturing facilities on Earth transformed overnight. New production lines could generate adaptive spacecraft components that could be instantly configured for multiple mission parameters. What used to take months of specialized manufacturing could now be done in hours. "We're not just building ships," Alex Thompson explained during a technical briefing. "We're creating living technological ecosystems." By the end of the research phase, human technology had leapfrogged decades of traditional galactic technological development. The Void Raiders' most advanced weapon systems were now effectively obsolete. The universe was about to witness a technological revolution, and humanity was leading the charge. The galactic map in the UES Horizons Command Center glowed with strategic markers. Thousands of potential attack vectors danced across holographic projections, each representing a potential path to victory. Captain David Roberts studied the display with a calm intensity that belied the magnitude of the upcoming offensive. "This is more than a battle," he told his senior officers. "This is the moment we reshape galactic conflict." The Joint Human Confederation fleet assembled at the edge of Void Raider territory represented something unprecedented in galactic military history. 12 human carrier groups, each accompanied by hundreds of adaptive drone vessels, integrated seamlessly with the Confederation's established fleet formations. What made the human approach unique was its fluid, almost organic strategy. Traditional military doctrines followed rigid command structures. The human fleet moved like a living organism, each ship and drone communicating and adapting instantaneously. Dr. Laura Williams had spent months developing the integrated communication network that allowed this unprecedented level of coordination. Quantum entanglement communication systems meant that every vessel could share tactical information faster than light itself. The first wave of the attack was deliberately designed to be psychologically devastating. Human cyber warfare specialists had spent weeks infiltrating Void Raider communication networks. As the attack began, critical command and control systems suddenly became unreliable. Void Raider fleet commanders watched in growing horror as their own communication networks betrayed them. Strategic defense protocols became jumbled. Weapon systems showed conflicting targeting information. What should have been a coordinated defense became a chaotic mess of miscommunication. Human drone squadrons moved with an unpredictability that defied traditional combat algorithms. They would create complex holographic projections, splitting Void Raider attention and defensive capabilities. Each drone was not just a weapon, but a sophisticated information gathering and disruption platform. General Thomas Blake monitored the operation from Earth, his decades of military experience recognizing the profound strategic innovation happening in real time. This was not just military engagement. This was a complete reimagining of space warfare. The quantum adaptive shield systems developed earlier proved their worth. Void Raider weapon strikes that would have destroyed traditional fleets were simply absorbed and redirected. Each attack made the human Confederation fleet stronger, turning enemy weapons into additional energy sources. Confederation military leaders watched in amazement. The humans were fighting a multi-dimensional war that went far beyond traditional physical combat. They were attacking communication systems, psychological frameworks, and strategic decision-making processes simultaneously. By the third Standard Galactic Day, the Void Raider defensive lines had completely collapsed, not through brute force, but through a sophisticated, multi-layered attack that dismantled their entire military infrastructure. Intercepted communications revealed the growing panic. Void Raider commanders were experiencing a complete breakdown of their military hierarchy. Some units were surrendering. Others were turning on each other. The human psychological warfare strategies had created total strategic paralysis. "We're not destroying them," Captain Roberts explained to the Confederation liaison. "We're giving them an opportunity to recognize the futility of their current approach." The final stages of the offensive were almost surgical in their precision. Human cyber specialists had mapped out the entire Void Raider communication and command infrastructure. Critical systems were disabled with microscopic precision, leaving minimal collateral damage. As the operation concluded, something remarkable happened. The Void Raiders didn't just lose a battle. Their entire military paradigm had been fundamentally challenged. Humanity had demonstrated that true military superiority was not about destruction, but about understanding and strategically dismantling complex systems. The galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Confederation's Central Council chamber was unusually silent. Representatives from dozens of alien species sat in stunned contemplation, processing the unprecedented events that had just reshaped galactic political dynamics. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the chamber, her presentation hologram displaying the comprehensive analysis of humanity's intervention. She wasn't celebrating. She was explaining. "We didn't just win a war," she said calmly. "We demonstrated a fundamentally different approach to conflict resolution." The war had lasted just under 14 standard galactic months. What would have traditionally been a decades-long conflict had been resolved through a combination of technological innovation, psychological strategy, and unprecedented adaptability. General Thomas Blake, now serving as Earth's primary diplomatic representative, watched the proceedings with a measured expression. He understood that this moment was about more than military victory. It was about establishing humanity's place in the galactic community. Confederation leaders struggled to comprehend the full implications. Humans had entered the galactic stage with no established diplomatic history, no long-standing alliances. They had fundamentally altered the balance of power through pure innovative capability. The Void Raider civilization was not destroyed. Instead, they had been strategically dismantled, their military infrastructure comprehensively neutralized, their aggressive expansion completely halted. It was a surgical intervention that demonstrated remarkable restraint. What truly terrified the galactic powers was not humanity's military might, but their approach to problem-solving. Traditional alien civilizations saw conflict as a binary proposition, win or lose. Humans saw it as a complex system to be understood and strategically managed. Diplomatic reports began circulating that revealed something even more remarkable. During the conflict, human teams had actually developed rehabilitation strategies for Void Raider populations. They weren't interested in punishment, but in understanding and potential reconciliation. They'd fight like no one we've ever seen, one Confederation analyst noted in a classified report. But more importantly, they think like no one we've ever encountered. The technological innovations developed during the conflict began to have wider implications. Quantum communication systems, adaptive shield technologies, and advanced problem-solving algorithms started spreading through galactic research networks. Dr. Laura Williams received unprecedented research grants from multiple alien civilizations. Her team's approach to cross-disciplinary innovation became a model for scientific collaboration across the galaxy. Captain David Roberts, now a leading figure in human-alien diplomatic relations, understood the deeper significance. This wasn't just a military victory. It was a demonstration of humanity's potential. Alien species began studying human cultural and educational systems. How did a civilization develop such rapid innovative capabilities? What educational and social structures allowed for such profound adaptability? The Confederation established a comprehensive research program dedicated to understanding human cognitive and social systems. Universities across multiple planets began offering courses in human strategic thinking. Humanity had not just joined the galactic community. They had fundamentally challenged its existing paradigms. 6 months after the conflict's conclusion, the first joint human-alien research stations were established. Where traditional diplomatic relations would have been cautious and slow, humans proposed bold, comprehensive collaboration frameworks. "We're not here to dominate," Thomas Blake explained during a key diplomatic summit. "We're here to collaborate, to learn, and to grow together." The galaxy watched with a mixture of excitement and underlying apprehension. Humanity had transformed from an unknown species to a pivotal civilization in less than 2 standard years. As the first human diplomatic missions began exploring deeper into uncharted galactic regions, one thing became abundantly clear. The universe had just met a species that would change everything. Not through conquest, not through destruction, but through an unprecedented capacity for innovation, understanding, and collaborative problem-solving.